Hey everyone, welcome to Sidetrack Adventures. This is Steve. Right now we're in Nevada's remote Monitor Valley, where there are no towns, no services, and no paved roads. But one thing that is in Monitor Valley is the geographic center of the state. And when I heard there's a giant hole in the ground near the middle of Nevada, well, I had no choice but to come out here and see it for myself. So today we're going to head through Monitor Valley and try and find the exact center of Nevada. We are starting out today pretty much in the middle of the state, miles from the nearest town. This is Monitor Valley, one of Nevada's best kept secrets. It is 10 to 20 miles across and stretches for nearly 90 miles through the middle of the Toquima and Monitor mountain ranges, making it the 5th longest valley in the state. The name Monitor actually comes from the USS Monitor, the Civil War ironclad ship. Early settlers said the nearby mountains reminded them of its flat deck, and the name stuck. This valley was once home to the Western Shoshone. Then in the mid-1800s, miners and ranchers came. While there is still some ranching in the valley, aside from a few scattered ranches and some ruins, the only other sign of people out here are just quiet ribbons of dirt road cutting through one of the most remote places in the American West. The road we're driving today is called Belmont Road, also known as Monitor Valley Road. We're starting just north of the ghost town of Belmont and heading up through the heart of Monitor Valley. To give you an idea of just how remote this place is, it's roughly 70 miles to the next paved highway, and that road, US Highway 50, carries the nickname, the loneliest road in America. So when even the loneliest road is 70 miles away, you know you're out there. The road through here, despite not being paved, so far is in great condition. That's probably because for about 40 years, this was Nevada State Route 82. This highway was first signed around 1941, but by the early 1970s, Nevada's Department of Highways began simplifying its network, removing many low-traffic rural routes from the state system. This highway was one of them, and it last appeared on the official state highway maps in 1980. Responsibility for the maintenance then passed to the counties, and at least so far it looks like they've done a great job. I know, famous last words and all. Hopefully 10 miles from now I don't regret saying that. Looking at some of the old highway maps, they even had the geographic center of the state noted on them, and the plan today is to get to that exact spot. Well, as I'll explain when we get closer, spots. This has been a pretty fun drive so far with some great scenery. Seeing the snow on the mountains is really cool. But the reason I stopped right here is because of this. I saw this on the side of the road and I wanted to stop and check it out real quick. It looks like it has a plaque on it. Aside from a fence here and there and maybe a ranch house or two off in the distance, this is the first man-made thing we've seen in a while. And it looks like this memorial is for Shannon Lusk, 1979 to 1997. Wow, only 18 years old. And here's another plaque with her name on it. Unfortunately, there's no service out here, so I can't look up anything about them right now. But this is definitely a beautiful spot for a memorial. It is amazing how big this valley is, yet how empty it is. Though, of course, as I say that, it looks like there are some ranching ruins up ahead. But it's funny, we just ran into what might be the only other group of people in this entire valley, and they watch these videos. So if you guys are watching this one, it was nice meeting you and nice talking to you guys. We've just come across some wild horses, and there are supposed to be quite a few that live in this valley. And they are actually on both sides of the road right now. And these are the only large animals we've seen so far. I was expecting to see some cattle, but so far we haven't seen any. Most of the land out here is administered by the Bureau of Land Management, which is pretty common for Nevada. About 2/3 of the land in the state is BLM land, and about 85% of the state's land is administered by the federal government. Not all of the land out here is public, though. There are a few private inholdings. As you could probably tell, we've turned off the main road, and that mound off in the distance is where we're heading to next, and it's called Diana's Punchbowl. And Diana's Punchbowl, sometimes called the Devil's Cauldron, is the so-called hole in the middle of Nevada. We just came across a snake, and this is the first snake we've seen in years. I believe this is a whip snake. It's not venomous or anything. But people are always asking us if we see any snakes, and well, here's one. This is the first one we've seen in a long, long time. Oh wow, did you see it take off? I think that just proves that snakes are afraid of me. At least this snake is. But now he seems to be coming back. Oh, there he goes again. I'll let him be. This is his home, not mine. Let's keep heading to the top. Some people do drive their cars up here, but it looks a little rough, and I'm not going to chance it with my car, at least not this far from civilization. Now, I'm not a geologist, but I read that this mound is travertine limestone, and it formed over thousands of years as hot groundwater rose through cracks in the Earth's crust, depositing layer after layer of mineral buildup until it sealed itself into this. And I can see why people drive up. Even though we're in a valley, the elevation here is just over 6,000 feet. And we are about at the top. The hole up here should be 50 feet across and 30 feet deep, so we're not going to get too close to the edge. Especially because the water at the bottom is said to be 140 to 200 degrees. And here it is. Can you see the steam coming off the water down there? I might have to show this from a different angle. I'm not sure how well it's showing up on camera. Nobody knows exactly where the name Diana's Punchbowl came from, but the most common story ties it to the Roman goddess of the hunt, Diana. Mentions of this place prior to the 1940s are scarce, but Geological Survey notes from the 1940s mention it as locally known as Diana's Punchbowl, so the name had been in use for some time. It does show up on old maps listed as Diana's Punchbowl, starting around 1900 as well. But imagine just coming across this thing unexpectedly. There are some other hot springs in the area, but this had to be quite a surprise. Apparently, some of the water escapes through a small stream beneath the dome, so this is supposed to be a good area to see wildlife, as the water will cool down enough for them to drink it. Diana's Punchbowl is a really impressive feature right in the middle of the valley. And it turns out, there is an easier way to drive up. Then again, if we drove up, we would have missed the snake. While you could say that this is the hole at the center of Nevada, the actual geographic center of the state is still about 20 miles or so behind me. So let's go see if we can find it. While this road was a state highway for a few decades, it actually dates back to the 1800s, where it started as a wagon road used by ranchers, miners, and early settlers moving through the valley. And our next stop as we make our way to the geographic center of Nevada should show us some of that early ranching history. We've come across some more wild horses. We've probably seen 25 to 30 of them so far on this drive. Enough to the point where we're not even stopping to film them anymore. We're coming up on Potts Ranch, which dates back to the 1870s, and the first cattle we've seen so far on this drive. One of these cows looks very curious about us while the other is heading for the hills. She seems pretty excited, but she's going to be disappointed that we're just driving past. This ranch house is about 150 years old. Potts Ranch was established in the 1870s by William Potts, a Scotsman who sensed this valley's potential for livestock. From a modest beginning, his operation grew to be recognized as one of Nevada's finer cattle outfits. But this place was pretty remote. The nearest town for supplies was the now ghost town of Belmont, which is about 40 miles from here. In 1898, the Potts Ranch got its own post office, a symbol of how isolated yet self-sufficient it had become. Many members of the Potts family served as postmaster or postmistress. That post office operated until 1941, and by 1944, the Potts family sold the ranch. And despite it being abandoned for nearly 80 years, it's great that it's still here, so we can still get a sense of what an 1800s ranch would have been like. So we should be getting close to the geographic center of Nevada, and there are actually two different geographic centers of Nevada, and I'll explain that more in a minute, but we're going to try to find them both. Okay, so it looks like we have to turn off the main road right here. And now we're going to have to follow this trail for a little bit. Goodbye to the nice smooth road. I think we're about as close as we're going to get in the car, so we'll have to head on foot from here. Here's the trail we drove down. And now we have to walk out this way. And there is a flag or a windsock or something out here, so that must be where the center point is. It's the right direction, at least. There is some dispute about how a geographic center of a state can be determined, especially since most states have odd shapes. Back in the 1920s, the U.S. Geological Survey created a list of the geographic centers for every state. Then in 2015, they released an updated list, and for most of the states, the center had moved. To be fair though, the original method wasn't exactly high-tech. They literally cut each state out of cardboard, hung it from a string, and drew a vertical line from the suspension point to find the balance. That's where they called the center. So what we're heading to now should be that original point they found in the 1920s. But I guess in this case, we can't knock the string too much, as the more up-to-date point isn't that far from here either. We're almost there, and this pretty much has to be a marker for the center point. If it's not, I'll be pretty surprised, since it's right about where the center point should be. Also, I can't see any other reason why somebody would have carried what appears to be a large barrel out here. And this is a Nevada flag on here too, though it's not in great condition. Yep, this is it. And if the GPS isn't enough proof, there's also a plaque here for the geographic center as well. For about 90 years, this was thought to be the geographic center of Nevada. And this is what the center of Nevada looked like. Then in 2015, with more modern equipment, they determined that the actual center is about 8/10 of a mile in this direction. So that's where we're heading next. This spot's a little closer to the main road, so we'll drive up a bit. So the spot's about 6/10 of a mile off the road. And unlike the original 1920s geographic center, I don't see any flags or anything flying out here. I did fly the drone out to see if I could find anything before I started walking out here, and no, I didn't see anything with the drone either. Hopefully there's some sort of marker or something out here. I'd hate to walk all the way out there and just have to point at some dirt on the ground and tell you that's the center. We should be getting pretty close. It's pretty wild to think that we are in the exact center of Nevada, and there's probably no other people within 20 miles of here. It's also amazing how quiet it is out here. This has to be one of the quietest places I've ever been. The spot that's currently determined to be the geographic center of Nevada should be just in front of us now. Well, we've made it. Provided the GPS is correct, this dirt is the geographic center of Nevada. And this is what the center of Nevada looks like. Pretty much the same as the other center, just about a mile away. I do see a few footprints on the ground, so it looks like somebody else has come out here and taken a look around recently as well. Maybe it's fitting that the center of Nevada isn't marked by a monument, and instead you're surrounded by nothing but sky and silence. It feels like this place is a good representation of the state. Wild, open, and vast. So that's our look at the exact geographic center of Nevada. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.